What's up, ballers? Welcome back to the NxtUp Ballers Podcast, where we spotlight leaders who aren't just talking about impact, they're building it with intention. Today's episode is titled Dream, Design, Deliver, the heart of leadership. And trust me, this one is layered. Our guest today is Dr. Diandra Renee Gordon, a 2-time TEDx speaker, licensed attorney, nonprofit founder, interim superintendent, and the creator of the H.E.A.R.T framework, a leadership model that centers empathy, excellence, and sustainable change. With over 15 years in nonprofit leadership, a PhD in human development and family science, a JD from Capital University Law School, and a career dedicated to transforming education and equity, Dr. Gordon doesn't just lead systems, she redesigns them. This conversation is about intentional leadership, cultural equity, and what it looks like to build something that touches both policy and people. Let's get into today's episode. NxtUp Ballers Podcast. I'm so excited to have you on this week's episode. How you feeling?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm excited to have you. We have circled each other for quite a few years. So just to have you on the podcast, so not only I can learn more about you, but so our listeners and watchers can learn more about you. I really believe it's going to be an incredibly impactful conversation. So you ready to get into it?
Yes. Happy to be here. Let's go.
All right. Cool. Okay. So before the titles, before the frameworks, who was Dr. Diandra growing up in Columbus?
Let's see. Raised, I don't consider myself a church girl, but some people be like, yes, girl, you're a church girl. So,
I mean, did you grow up in church?
I did.
Okay.
But I don't think I was a church girl.
I'm a church girl.
And maybe because my church was a little different.
Okay.
So we play R&B at church sometimes. We would do the electric slide during praise and worship.
Okay. During praise and worship?
During praise and worship.
Was it to a gospel song?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, fair.
like Stomp or,
Okay.
I mean,
that's
little
fair.
Kirk Franklin at that time, grew up in the 90s. But, I was always, I grew up in the arts, always had an opinion, grew up leading, which I find to be interesting.
Leading in what way? What does leading look like?
So, like at my church, we had a youth group. It was called SOC, Save Our Kids. Kids still need saving, okay? But
SOC is crazy.
SOC, just with no S, SOC, Save Our Kids.
Sock it to them.
Sure.
Okay.
Just SOK.
Sure. Okay.
SOC. So we called it SOC. And that was the teen youth program.
Okay.
Or ministry. Out here in the community, so I say program, but ministry.
Yes.
And then, but I wasn't technically old enough to be in the teen program, but I was in it.
How old were you?
I mean, probably like 12,
Okay.
right before preteen. And then, but so every ministry had a president that the ministry would elect, and then they would sit at the board of directors at the church. So all the ministry directors, leaders would be together at executive council. And so they voted me president.
At 12.
12. And I think at that time, as I reflect, I think it was one of those moments like, well, she gonna say what she thinks anyway. And so, and then also, I just was always interested in adult conversations. Like, what are you talking about? Why? How are you making this decision? I always ask questions. In my TED Talk, I talk about how my grandmother bought this, 5-volume book of questions. It was called The Big Book of Questions.
Okay.
Had, 5 volumes because I asked so many questions. I was actually laughing with my mom the other day. She was like, yeah, you asked a lot of questions as a child.
Same thing I get.
I was like,
even to this day.
I mean, you need to know.
Hence
ask
the
all the
podcast.
questions.
Yeah.
Just ask all the questions.
Why not?
And so yeah, I was one of those, very inquisitive. Always wanted to know why. How does that work? Why did you make that decision? Hence undergrad psychology, but grew up on the stage in the arts. Often grew up hiding though, which people probably didn't know that that's what I was doing. But I would say I still grew up hiding.
Behind what as a leader? What does that look like?
Because people always looked to me, I didn't always show up fully still. So like I remember one time we had a oratorical kind of contest thing, and they didn't have a lot of youth that showed up, and so it was given almost like a one man show. I think it's called a mono something. Anyway, and I was there, and they were like, well, does anybody else want to do it? Because they didn't really have anybody. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll, read or whatever. So I took it. It was like somebody's speech. I don't know, Harriet Tubman's Journey Through somebody. I don't know. I don't remember. But my pastor at the time, one of them, my pastor at the time was very, very big on Black history. So we learned a lot about Black history, civil rights.
Yeah, that's good.
My first time traveling to Africa was with my church under that leader, that pastor. So very, very global, creative. I'm Black and I'm proud.
Okay. I love that.
And so like when Reverend Jeremiah H.E.A.R.T he used to come to our church because she came from there. So, so I read it, and I guess I did really, really good. I was nervous as heck because I was like, oh, that's weird. But I also was a character, I guess. And so they were like, oh, my God. They was like, well, would you do it next time? And I was like, no. No, actually, I wouldn't.
That was cool.
Yeah,
But I'm done.
it's fun experience. Great, thanks. No, I wouldn't. So that's why I say hiding. Like, you have all these gifts, but you don't always take the opportunity to show them.
No, that's good. That's really good. And I think even as an adult leader, right? Still, those opportunities where you're like, actually, no, I'd rather not be put out front in that way, or I'd rather not expose myself to that degree. So I think it's really interesting that started very early on for you. But it is those moments where leadership is built. So like the opportunity to step up and be a president at 12, or the opportunity to read a script that you had no idea that you were going to be doing. But those are the little moments that you can like look back and be like, oh, I was always destined to be a leader. Like this was always who I was going to be, whether I realized it back then or not. So thank you for sharing a little bit about little you. So Columbus native, and you've been here through college. I take that back. I'm sorry. You went to the Hampton University. I apologize. But for the most part, here in Columbus.
Yeah, I went away for undergrad and I came back.
Yeah.
Not necessarily my plan, but I'm here.
I mean, it's all in God's plan.
Clearly. Talk about something I learned that.
But through and through, what sounds like what was instilled in you early on, even going to an HBCU, and we'll get into all your degrees here later on in the conversation. But I want to ask, like, what started really shaping your desire and understanding for education and equity? Like, where was that rooted? Was it early on? Was it in the church? Was it by parents? Where did that start?
Let me think about that. I would say, so education was a value that my family held high.
Okay.
We were supposed to get A's. That was the norm. We got money for A's.
Yeah.
So we got rewarded for them.
Rewarded for A's.
My grandma used to give us a roll of pennies for every A for our report cards.
How much is it? 50 cents?
$1.
Oh, okay.
At that time, it was 100 pennies, I think, in one roll.
Oh, okay.
And so, which is interesting. I'm like, and they're stopping making pennies
I
right
know,
now.
change.
It's so crazy.
I was digging around for change the other day.
I was like, that's when you had penny cent candy,
Yeah.
penny wit somewhere.
Yeah. Yes.
Nowadays, I don't know. But that's just probably why they're getting rid of them. Like, they don't work here.
I was about to go down a total rabbit hole. We'll stay focused. Okay.
So education was valued. I would say my grandmother had a master's degree in education. So she was actually an educator. She was an administrator. She was a principal by the time I came along and could remember. She was a principal. She actually used to lead Fort Hayes, and then she was at the Career Center, and then she was also at Southeast Career Center, which isn't a thing right now. But so she was an educator. My grandfather had a PhD. He went to Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
And then he also led the NAACP in Tennessee. And then my great-great-uncle He was one of the founding members of Omega Psi Phi at Wayne State in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So, various opportunities of like education, civil rights. Like my grandfather, who actually has passed now, he marched with Martin Luther King at one point in time.
Oh,
So
wow.
very, very into civil rights. That was a thing. They sent my mother when they lived in Tennessee to help integrate the schools. So grew up around those conversations. And it was just the norm. And it was just like, hey, this is what we're a part of now. Yeah, my mother, they talked about how traumatized. They use the word trauma because that just wasn't really a word for them. But basically how traumatizing it was for them, for her to be the only black kid on the bus going across town to a white school and Catholic schools and all of that. So they laugh and joke about it now. Like, yeah, y'all sent me to. And so it's all, a conversation at the dinner table. But being around those different spaces and places at church, we had to give reports. Now we were still in school, but we had to give reports on, like, I learned about Medgar Evers because that was who I was assigned to look up. And I remember that was when I think we first had printers.
Okay.
And so, but we didn't have printer paper, so I printed it on notebook paper. But I was excited because we could print. Okay, so
Did that work?
Yep.
Oh. Okay. I was like, wait a
So,
minute. I don't even feel like.
Yes, it worked. So I always grew up around those ideologies and learning, like the sermons that I heard integrated civil rights and Black people and all of that. And then also grew up in culturally inclusive art spaces that included like African dance and African history and that type of thing. So it's been around. Always been around. And then in my personal journey, learning what it means to have experiences. So there's one level where you're taught it, but then when you have to experience what it means, it kind of gives a different dynamic. It gives a different dynamic to learning. And so that also kind of has shaped why I do what I do.
No, that's really good. I thank you for sharing just a lot of that background, because we all have a very different journey to what legacy means for us, right? And it really sounds like you had an incredible foundation laid out for you. Just being able to see it in real time through your mom and grandma and uncle and even pastor and all of that. And that is something that a lot of people don't have access to, most specifically within the Black community, of really just seeing that firsthand and having that to either inspire you or, in some cases maybe even intimidate you. But I appreciate that was something that it sounds like it was just kind of like the wind that pushed you to what you're doing now.
Can I add something? I didn't even know. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I had to reflect on that as an adult.
For sure.
Oh, I saw this all the time. And then when I learned and journeyed, like, I learned how many Black lawyers there were, or the lack thereof, in the United States, because I was on the verge of not being one in law school. So that's how that came about when I started looking. I was like, oh, this is different. Like, this ain't everybody's norm.
No, right.
And then when I went to Hampton, that's when I learned how diverse Black people were. And so it wasn't something that I knew. It was just what I saw. And then my pastor was, she's Reverend Doctor.
Oh.
So also, I told her later, I was like, actually, I think you were my first person as a doctor and a woman. So that she was like, oh, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, most we don't think about legacy or even the lessons we're learning when we're children. We are just being kids. And it isn't until we're confronted with the opportunity to become something different, or just become something, when we think about what we're doing in adulthood, right? What am I going to be? Oh, I did see this. Oh, I didn't even realize that these seeds were planted when I was younger. And now as an adult, as in my 20s and 30s, they're now starting to grow, right? They're now starting to manifest in ways that I didn't even realize. No, that's so good. So you started talking about your educational experience, right? So graduating from Hampton, with your law degree and PhD, walk our listeners through that journey for you. So why choose the HBCU, and what did that do for you? And and then where you attained your master's and doctoral degree and why you chose those and just kind of what that did for you as well.
Sure. So I might just start from the beginning. So I'm going to start from the beginning a little bit just for context, because I was talking to somebody earlier. So I went K through 8 to a French immersion school. So that kind of gave me a different perspective of the world. Most of my teachers weren't from America. And I learned English as a second language. I tell people that. They're like, what? English was my second language that I actually officially learned. French was my first because we were a French immersion school. So they taught us French first. So that already gave me a different perspective of the world. And then I went to CAS, academic focus. I joke, we have a chess team. That was our competitive sports team. And then I went to Hampton undergrad. Growing up, so me and I have a friend, and we've been friends since kindergarten. We went to the same preschool, kindergarten. We went to the same K through 8. We went different ways at high school. But we used to say that we were going to Spelman, we were going to be roommates, and we both were going to be doctors. And so she went to Spelman, I went to Hampton. But we're both doctors. She's an MD, I'm PhD. Okay. But we went to, I ended up going to Hampton because I didn't get my acceptance from Spelman. Oh. And then, not that I didn't get accepted, I called them, and they were like, oh, we sent that. And I was like, that ain't, no. And then I had just accepted Hampton. I was just like, well, I'll just accept Hampton since I had it. But I finally, and I don't know if you know anything, I think it's still true at HBCUs. Well, we didn't have like that online portal stuff then.
No, absolutely
so there wasn't no click of a button, go look it up type thing. It was a call.
You call or show up?
Call and call. Or show up, right. But this was Georgia, wasn't no high school. I wasn't showing up there. So so then when I finally got accepted to Spelman, I was like, oh, I had already decided to go to Hampton.
You reneged on the plan.
Sure. I blame Spelman. They didn't give me the communication, okay?
Joking.
It was late. I blame Spelman. And so went to Hampton, and then I wanted to be a doctor and a lawyer, but I wanted to be a medical doctor and a lawyer because I wanted to solidify. I just learned that a lot of the policies, the research, and all of that kind of have one voice represented, and it didn't represent my experience. And so I wanted to be impactful or in a place that can influence the policies and the laws, because that is where our world is sustained. Everything, there's a law to almost any and everything. And so being able to affect that and be able to speak the language to represent my people, that's why I wanted to go that route. However, so I did psychology, pre-med, always interested in people. I told you, I asked all the questions. Why did you make that decision? What information did you, all that. And then we got to organic chemistry, and I was like.
Took you out.
I said, so we're gonna keep putting these molecules together? Like, how is that? We're the people. Like, how does this lead to people? And that was a pre-med track. And so when do we study humans? I don't want to learn about molecules. And then I was like, so there's more of this. Please take me out. Take me out of here now. And so I was able to do the McNair Scholars Program. And then people probably like, how'd she do that? She talked about her grandfather. I'm actually first generation on my dad's side, college student. But so I did the McNair Scholars Program. I did that at Virginia Tech. And so then I was like, oh, I'm going to do this PhD route. So still a doctor, but I'm going to influence research, and research influences policy. And so I'm going to influence and impact people that way. And then I've always been a part of the community, grew up in that. And so I wanted to be the center of research policy and community. And so I went that route. So then I went to Ohio State I actually went to study neuroscience initially. I applied to PhD programs in neuroscience.
You was not letting science go.
No, I love the brain. I really, really love the brain. Yeah. And so, and even if I was an MD, I'd probably be a psychiatrist or something like that if I would have gone medical route, because I really, really love the brain and how people think and make decisions. Really, really curious about that. And so went to Ohio State, studied human development, family science. I also was interested in decision making, but how... I forgot what I called it, but how people who return to their abuser, what are the neuromechanisms that happen when they make those decisions. And so did some of that work at Virginia Tech when I was a McNair Scholar, and then applied to Ohio State. Actually only applied to one PhD program after I niched the neuroscience piece, and got into Ohio State. And that professor, because a lot of people don't tell you when you get into a PhD program, it's really determined by your advisor. And so that advisor took a position at Michigan State the summer before I was supposed to start. And so we tried to work it out so I can go to Michigan State. It didn't work out. I had a fellowship here at Ohio State, and they were like, we can give you a RA, meaning I had to like live in a dorm and work. And I was like, that's...
As a grown adult?
That graduate, GRA. And I was like, yeah, I don't have to do that. I just have to study here. Like, and then I had just closed on my house. And she was like, so you would have had to given me enough money to meet the mortgage that I just signed up for because I got accepted here.
Right.
And so I stayed. And so that was its own journey. I can share more, but I'm like, I'd been talking. And then I went to Capital Law School.
For law. So bring it all together. How do all three work together?
So, I mean, there's multiple paths. So I have the lens of all those people when I come to the table. Research, I can study data. I studied large data sets, so analytical skills. And that can also be program evaluation. When it comes to nonprofit programming, I also I can do the research. So my dissertation work was on a community wellness program that I created for families, and using that cultural context, I can write about it because I wrote my dissertation. And so, all those. And then I went to law school, so I still have the legal lens, and so it allows me to communicate in a certain way. I look at things a lot differently than other people. Even like people talking to me now, I'm like, yeah, you're not saying, you didn't answer my question. Like you didn't answer my question. Yeah. Like that doesn't actually logically lead to that answer. So, and that's also interesting because I have a very analytical brain. But when I'm communicating, most people don't have this level of skill set.
Yeah, it's layered. Yeah.
So when I'm talking to other people, I have to remember that. And then, and not in a judgmental way, but just in a way of people are human. Like they just don't logically, their brain doesn't work that way. And so keeping all of that in mind, right now I have a nonprofit organization. I do a lot of leadership development and executive advisory work. So I look at things from a systems perspective. And I think that would be one of my greatest assets is I get to look at the big picture and the small picture at the same time. And then also understand how to navigate and be creative when coming up with a solution, because I also understand the legal and political policy lens too.
For sure. No, that's really good. And actually is a beautiful segue into my next set of questions, which is leaning more into that entrepreneurship, leadership, legacy, just kind of realm. So understanding like there is, with the multiple lenses that you have that were given to you through your multiple degree tracks, there's like systems that work inside all of them. And you have developed quite a few systems. You've developed, quite a few organizations and helped organizations and nonprofits with the skill set that you have. So I think it's just a beautiful just kind of setup of understanding your history, understanding the perspective that you bring and the knowledge that you bring to any space that you're in, how you're applying it to, all of these various ways. But at the center of everything that you do and all the systems you create, there is this through line of centering African-American families and students, and understanding how to be culturally adaptive to family wellness, to leadership, success, being successful as leaders. Why is pouring into not only leaders and African-American families and leaders, why is that so crucial to change? So like when we think about leaving something behind, when we think about legacy, a lot of that is being able to tap into what needs to change. Why is that something that you focus on within what you're creating? And why is it important? Why is it important to actually be a part of that change?
So the core of your question is why pour into leaders and why is it important to do so when it comes to change?
So not only just leaders. So when you think about the many facets that you are a part of, so whether that is pouring into young people, whether that is centering the voice of African American folks and families, and pouring into leaders, why bring all of your skill sets? Why is that the focal point of what you do? And how is that crucial for change?
Okay. So I would say one of my philosophies, I believe that everyone is a leader because everyone has influence. Mm-hmm. And so it depends on how you use that influence. And then I think being able, I grew up human. Mm-hmm. I grew up, I guess you call me a church girl. I grew up loving the Lord, and being able to be God's hands and feet on this earth is a big part of what I do. Mm-hmm. I could probably make billions of dollars right now given the amount of knowledge and education that I have. But if it's not impacting and influence people so that they can be who God created them to be, then I'm doing nothing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. And so I think that drives a lot of my work. It's from the heart. So will I make billions one day? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
God will make room.
Yes. Yes, I will. Now how? I don't know right now. But yes, I will. But I understand that systemically, as an African American adult, child, or whatever, as an African American in America, there are systemic barriers for us to just show up. Not even for us to be our best selves or who God called us to be, I would say, but just for us to show up in certain spaces. And so I used to say that I joke still sometimes. I'm like, even if they didn't want to hear me, when I get these degrees, they're going to be like, who is this girl?
Who is this person? Yeah.
So they're at least going to be curious. And I can say that these degrees have opened doors for me. I can just be in a space sometime just because I have doctor in front of my name or Esquire on the end. And so, and I recognized that, and I knew that, and I knew that it was a part of my calling and purpose to be able to open doors and make room for others. So if it meant I had to struggle for 8 years or however long it took me to get these, so that I can be in a space to open the doors for others, or I can sit in a room like I have a program with youth. But I believe I'm a mentor. So if I can sit in a room, and I've been in rooms of like in the hospital with some of my mentees. So if I can be there just to make sure that you know that somebody is here rooting for you and that you're going to get through and then you're going to lead other people too, then I'll do that. But I've served as an armor bearer, and people are like, that's so humbling. Change shoes. Like Jesus did it.
Right.
Literally washed his feet of his disciples. Yep. And so being able to literally be God's hands and feet and make room for other people to do the same, what else am I called to this earth to do?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if if that answers your question as to why the degrees and skill sets do that. The Lord told me to go get a PhD in a law degree. Literally.
I get it.
Literally. It was on my wall at one point in time, and the Lord told me to do it by 2020. Yeah. And the Lord literally walked me through that thing. Yeah. So, and there were journeys and moments in that journey. I was like, Lord, so did you?
Yes. Because this don't feel like grace. This don't feel like I thought it was going to be as easy
Hello?
as it was.
So, yeah. But at the end of the day, the Lord always provides, always sees me through. Yeah. And then I never lack. And so even if it's a journey and it seems like an uphill battle, I never lack. And the Lord always provides. So I'd be like, all right, it's me and you. Let's go.
Yeah, actually. No, I think that is important because we realize that a large part of change is empowering other people to operate in their gifts. Because if we're all actually working together, if we're all connected, if we're all in this thing together, I'm going to use my gifts, skills, and talents in order for you to feel confident enough to use your gifts, skills, and talents and when we're both operating in our gifts, skills, and talents, then we are able to make change, right?
Yeah.
So what can I do to empower? What can I do to inspire, right?
Yeah.
And that's really good. So coming up with questions for you was fun and challenging because I really wanted to try and highlight, and just the short time that we have together, highlight as much of your goodness as possible. So and that looks like from the framework, the H.E.A.R.T framework you developed, to founding More Inc., to founding Inspire, literally all the things. If you can, and I make it a point, especially because I have nothing but legacy builders on this podcast, but I really want you to hype yourself up. I really want the listeners to, and it doesn't have to be a long drop, but I really want you to share with our listeners the what and the why, right? So like, what drove the framework? What drove the nonprofit? What is it? So if you could just give like your elevator pitch for all of them, because I want this to be an opportunity that really just shows that like you can be just a girl from Columbus and still do some amazing things.
Thank you. So I am not good at this.
It's okay.
At all. I just, I don't ever hype myself up, to be honest.
Which is why I have to intentionally tell our guests to hype themselves up, because it's a part of the humbling process. We do the work because we're called to do it. We do the work because we're driven and passionate about it. We don't think about it as although it is work. I'm not saying it's easy, right? I'm not negating that, but we don't think of it as work in a sense of something that I have to do. We think of it as something like, oh, I get to do this. Like God graced me with the capacity and the gifts to do that. Okay, I hope I stalled enough to have you get your mind together. Okay.
Girl, no. Still don't got it.
You got it. You got it. It's in you.
I'll say I don't even have an elevator pitch for one. So I'm Dr. Diandra Renee.
Yeah.
I'm a 2-time TEDx speaker, licensed attorney. I'm born and raised Columbus, Ohio. My H.E.A.R.T framework stands for Hear, Evaluate, Assess, Redirect, and Transform. It's a dual framework, so you can use it in your personal journey to navigate. I used it navigating, often being the only Black woman in the room, Black person and Black woman in the room as a PhD and a law student. And so I was told in both spaces that I didn't need those degrees to do the work that I wanted to do, because I was very clear that I wanted to advocate for Black people and making a space for Black families. And so I learned that. And then it's also a framework for organizations to help when it comes to creating organizational systems and making sure that the organization is mission aligned and an equitable space for all their employees and the ones they influence, because often we forget that. I work a lot in the education space, and we forget that at the end of the day, you wouldn't have your job if we didn't have a student.
Absolutely.
And I'm very clear about that when I go into spaces. I've served as an interim superintendent at a charter school. I serve as the executive director of More Inc. and founder. More stands for Motivate Others to Reach Excellence. I really believe in a systems perspective, and so one of my dreams was to create a nonprofit that worked from that lens. So we have our mission is to motivate others to reach excellence by highlighting the undervalued and under-resourced and amplifying their voices, and we do that through our 6 pillars: art, culture, health, education, economics, and community. And those are all things that were pivotal in my career and journey and what people deem as successful. I have a brand called Driven While Black. I have the T-shirt on today.
Okay.
And that started to amplify Black voices, especially in the legal space. I was academically dismissed from law school Went back, ended up graduating on time, but I still had to redo all my first year of classes, failed no classes, but had to redo them all. I went to a private law school. We can talk about that on another day. But with that, I learned in that journey, that less than 5% of lawyers are Black in the United States. And that has been the same over the past 10 years. Actually, the number has decreased. And so being able to amplify folks in that space, Black lawyers, their why, their challenges, and all of that, because when it came my time to learn Black people navigating spaces, after I encountered the challenge is when folks were like, oh, yeah, that happened to so-and-so, or, oh, yeah, such and such, such and such. And so being able to get that wisdom on the front end would have been helpful. And so...
Well, that's why you're here, sharing the story.
Thank you. So that, and then I have a consulting firm, and so we do leadership development and executive advisory work. And so a lot of that is because when we think of it from a systems perspective, let's just say a school, for example, at the end of the day, it's about students, but the decisions that the leaders make impact the students' everyday decision. Same reason why I went to law school. Those policy makers and those decision makers influence my neighbor, influence my family, influence my sister, mother, brother, whatever. And so being able to influence it at the top can help when it trickles down to the person that it's supposed to affect. So I think I answered your question. Those are my why.
Okay, yeah. I was like, so y'all see why this was a challenge for me. I was like, you know what? I got questions, but let's hear it from her mouth specifically, because it really is important. This podcast is for us. This podcast is for helping people who are the same, around the same age as us or younger than us, to really see that it can be done, right? Like, we're here to inspire. We are here to just show that, yes, it may be difficult. Yes, our backgrounds may be all different and everyone may not have had the same path, but that doesn't mean that the result of what you desire can't happen for you. So thank you.
Yeah, I forgot. The Lord reminded me after I stopped talking that I have Dream Driven Leader, and so dreaming big is important for me. And so I have a community of the Dream Big crew of people that Christian led, on just people getting together and want to encourage each other to dream big, because often with all the other opposition and systems, people are not encouraged to dream big, but then also don't have the skill set. They're like, yeah, I got this idea and this dream and it won't let you go, but then you don't know how to implement it. And so, and everything's an acronym. People are like, girl, you the girl of acronyms. And so I'm like, but designing reality exponentially and magnificently, because I think that's what we're called to do. So Dream Driven Leader is kind of like the corporate version of that, and being able, because you need leaders with vision, and you need leaders to actually come up with solutions for everyone. So when we're talking about equity and making spaces that are inclusive, then we have to be intentional about making sure that we can dream, and then hold space for other people's dreams as well. So
so last couple questions before we start coming down. So this is just something I like to ask everyone. What does legacy mean to you?
That's a question that I've more recently been reflecting on, because people that I've looked up to all of my life, it's like, the next generation is transitioning. Yep. And so like somebody like Brother H.E.A.R.T, he's a poet, artist, author here in Columbus. He passed a few years ago. But in his eulogy, they read that he had like 70 books that he self-published.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my great-great-uncle, who died at like 103, the Q founder from Wayne. He was a poet too.
Okay.
And he published his own book. I think he was a poet laureate or something. He had some award.
Okay.
But it made me think beyond, like, I get to make these impacts. I think y'all should know, I think in layers, but there's a layer of legacy that is the work and decisions that you make every day, and who you decide to pour into
and show up as.
Yes, but then also there's a level of what tangible thing do you have, whether it be an institution or a book, that will survive beyond your living days on this side of yonder? So that's what I think. So I've been thinking very intentionally about what that looks like for me, because I do get to impact a lot of people. Like our organization, we get to impact over 2,000 youth a year. But often people don't know that that relates to me, and I'm okay with that. I told you I was okay with hiding for a while, and sometimes still am. But so what does that look like? I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like for me, and so I probably need to write a book. People be asking me all the time, do I have a book? No, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
Because I don't sit down long enough to write one.
That is a thing, because you are busy. You are busy.
People say that too. I don't ever say yes.
So
yes.
You may not have thought about what the legacy looks like, but let's just say 20 years from now, what is the impact that you want to have had? So with the frameworks, with the degrees, with the organizations, with the policies, with all of that, like if you had to really think about like, what do I want to be remembered for even just 20 years from now? Maybe not when you're 103, right? If you live to be as old as your uncle,
wow.
But what impact do you want to have? What impact do you want to be said that you made?
Excuse me. I've also been reflecting on this because there's also been a few younger people that have passed that have been younger than me, and I'm like, oof, what would y'all say if I passed tomorrow? Prayerfully, that is not.
Oh, yeah, amen. Okay.
Not mine. I'm trying to grow old. I don't know. The crazy part is what came to mind was she did that.
Okay. I love that.
Who says that?
I love that.
Like, I am grateful to say, actually, I saw somebody yesterday. I was at a networking event. I haven't seen them in years since I was in law school. And she was like, I'm really glad that you got your PhD and your law degree. She said, I know the journey wasn't easy, but I'm glad you got it. But she was kind of one of those skeptics in the journey. And so I don't want to say to see haters be your motivators now, but to see people who doubted you look back like, wow, I'm glad you did that.
Okay.
Is crazy to me. Because I'm also one of those keep that same energy type people. But I do believe in growth.
Yes.
We just don't have to interact with your growth. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I guess she did that. I just want you to know that if you have a dream, just do it.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Take one step towards it every day, every moment. Go do it. And if you get pushed 10 steps back, keep taking another step towards it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, she did that. I can say that now. We ain't even got to wait 20 years to say that.
She did that.
All right. So we are heading into our quick play segment. This is just whatever comes to your mind first. We don't need long answers. We don't need explanations. It really is just a fun way for our guests to get to know you a little bit more.
All right.
All right. You ready?
I hope I can think fast.
Oh, it's going to be fun. All right. So your law brain or your research brain, which one wins an argument?
Dang, both of them. Both of them. You can't separate them.
Okay.
They called me the lawyer when I was younger.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because of the questions. That makes sense. One word that defines your leadership style.
Diandra.
Okay. I said no explanation. That's fine. We're going to let the audience sit with that. They had enough to chew on before that question. I'm sure they can run it back if they want to see all that entails. That's cool. One leadership habit you refuse to compromise on.
One leadership habit that I refuse to compromise on. I don't like liars. Don't lie to me.
Okay. So you don't lie and then you don't want people to lie to you. Very honest. So honesty.
Intentionally, yeah.
All right. Your go-to song when you need encouragement.
I'm like, what type of encouragement, girl? Whew.
The last guy said the same thing.
Did they? I'm like, what type of encouragement? Ooh, sorry. Encouragement. There's one song that talk about encourage yourself in the Lord. There's that one. I'm like, how low? How low do I have to be? Yeah, that one got me through grad school. Yeah, I guess so. Like a Hype Me Up, God Don't Play About Me plays in my mind sometimes.
Okay. That's a good one. All
Yeah.
right. And then the last question is, you do a lot, but if you were just like, I wish I could just let it all go and do this, what would be the one thing that you think you would do?
I'd be on an island.
An island? Okay.
Yes.
Just
In
give
the
it
sun with sand.
Sand in between your
Eating
toes.
pineapple
I understand
and
that.
mango.
Yes. Especially in this
Laughing.
Ohio weather. Yeah.
Yes,
it'd be
laughing,
great.
dancing, having joy with no debt.
Yes. All
and
of
nothing that I have to pay for because it's all paid.
All paid for.
And then I could give money away.
There you go.
Yeah. That's
the
what
life.
Yeah.
All right. So every guest that comes onto the podcast is tasked with leaving our listeners and viewers with one challenge that they can do this week. So what is one thing you want to share? Yes, this week. What can they do? And that can be, it can be anything. It can be getting more connected to their community. It could be following whatever you want to leave them with this week. What is one tangible thing they can do this week that will challenge them?
I would say take 30 to 45 minutes, sit down. Maybe you need an hour. Be still. And allow yourself to dream. Mm-hmm. Write it down. And then 3 steps that will allow you to get there. And then 3 barriers that you have that may come into play, a resource you may not have. And then go do it. Put real dates on there.
Mm-hmm. Make a plan.
Yeah, put real dates on there. But really sit down and allow yourself to dream because we don't often do that.
We don't.
So, and I think that is our deficit. So sit down, be still, allow yourself to dream. No limits. Just dream. And then write it down. If you desire to go build a skyscraper, then that's what comes to mind. Write it down.
Okay.
And then go figure it out.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So good.
30 to 45 minutes. Go dream.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Diandra Gordon, for being on the podcast with us today. You shared so many gems, and I'm proud of you for taking the opportunity to hype yourself up. Thank you for being such an impactful community leader. Thank you for being an inspiration to so many people in ways that you know and that you don't know. But just continue to shine your light and continue to be the hands and feet of God. And I can't wait till you get to be on your island with your millions, with your feet in the sand and your mangoes and pineapples.
I'm like, girl, that's coming at 4 p.m. Be ready.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was great.
This was good. I appreciate
See y'all next
you.
time. Oh, wasn't that so good? Dr. D reminded us that leadership isn't accidental. It's cultivated. It's researched, it's practiced, and when it is done with heart, it transforms not just systems, but people. She reminded us that we don't just stumble into legacy. You dream it and you dream big. You design it and then you deliver it. Thanks again for tuning into another episode of the NxtUp Ballers Podcast, where our guests are built on wisdom, driven by action, and leaving a legacy behind them. You can listen to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and you can also watch us on YouTube. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. But until then, we'll catch you next time. Go ball out.